behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream.
Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take to you Mary, your wife, for that which is conceived in her is of the Holy Spirit. And she will bring forth a son, and you shall call his name Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins.
For from within, out of the heart of men, proceed evil thoughts, adulteries, fornications, murders, thefts, covetousness, wickedness, deceit, lewdness, an evil eye, blasphemy, pride, foolishness. All these evil things come from within and defile a man. You have heard that it was said, "You shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy." I say to you, love your enemies. Bless those who curse you. Do good to those who hate you. And pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you, that you may be sons of your Father in heaven. Therefore, whoever confesses me before men, him I will also confess before my Father who is in heaven. But whoever denies me before men, him I will also deny before my Father who is in heaven. Assuredly, I say to you that it is hard for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. And again I say to you, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are here for a special Sunday night edition of not the ballroom, but the Bible Ins, and we got our good buddy Cider here joining us for a very special episode. Now, Cider, the last time that you were here, I believe we were somewhere between episode 5 or 6, so it's safe to say it's been a little while. So I was thinking to myself, I don't even think you've seen particularly this intro, because we had a completely other intro. That was like my literally like chopped together intro for the show the first time around here, but we cleaned it up a little bit since we've been back. So first of all, how are you doing here tonight?
I will let you know I am in a little bit of pain because of streaming for 5 hours yesterday with that stupid trading card shop simulator. So I'm sorry.
Well, two things. One, no one asked you to do that. And second of all, I'm trying to find that simulator too, because the whole time I was watching you play, I was thinking to myself, I can make way more money than he's making right now.
Yep.
He is charging way too low on these prices. It's like I would be gouging people at a certain point. But we'll get to that in a different day, a different conversation. This is kind of a two-parter in a sense, but it's not like a linear two-parter, but I was looking for a topic to talk about for tonight's show, and I was leaning between either this one or the recent comments about, the Pope and kind of everyone converging towards the Roman Catholic Church right now. I think I might save that one for another week, because this one we can talk about in a twofold here, because this is the topic of AI, and everyone's been freaking out all weekend long about essentially what's been going on with the Sora 2 AI update, that people have been making updates with celebrities and all this stuff going along with that. And we were kind of looking at it from the context of kind of like copyright. But of course, I tend to look at the bigger picture of things like this. And I think to myself, okay, if we're advancing this quickly and things, even though we'll talk about this in the course of the show here, even though things are advancing, but they're not quite there yet, what are we ultimately building up towards? What is the end game of this entire situation? And as much as I would love to sit here and think to ourselves that in a couple of years we would have the ability to make our very own episodes of South Park, and there's nothing that, Matt and Trey can do to stop us, I don't think that's why this whole thing is being rolled out in the manner that it is right now. I feel like that there's something a lot bigger around the corner, something that could quite literally be world ending, depending on how this thing plays out here, or at least a tool for great deception. Now, that's kind of like maybe the best case scenario, because the other implications here are far, far worse than that. And there's been a a multitude of topics that have led us to this point, and even a review that I just did not too long ago that also kind of played up on this. So what I figure what we're going to do here is kind of talk about the real world aspects of the advancement of AI and how much it's improved over the course of the next couple of years and what can possibly come next. And then I think on the bar room on Tuesday, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about it more from an entertainment and copyright aspect of it, because there actually is a solid argument to be made about the future of, I guess you can say, copyright and property rights and things of that nature that does actually bring forth kind of some interesting parallels here to the rise of AI. But with that said, I kind of want to keep it more on the biblical term for tonight. So before we get started here, let everyone know we here are live on all three platforms. We're here on YouTube, we're here on X, we're here on Rumble as well. Leslie Tarkin is joining us here for this show, saying hail to all you lovely people. Vanya's also joining us here, and Vanya wants to know what Cider's doing here. It's like people are so used to just seeing me here for these shows that they're like, oh no, more people. Even though I think the last time you were here, there was like 3 other people here on the show who weren't.
Yeah.
So
the mystery guest.
Yeah, right. So let's kind of unpack this here, because before I get specifically into the Sora AI content and all the stuff going along with it, the last time you were here, we did talk about AI. We also talked about central bank digital currency, right? And what we were kind of looking at there, and this is, I guess you could say, in the early iterations of AI, it's like, this is something that we typically was not in our vernacular 5 years ago, right? Like, no one was rapidly talking about AI in the way that we are seeing it here in 2025 5 years ago. It's advanced very, very quickly. And it seems like there was an arms race of everyone was trying to get ahead of something that they knew what was coming. And kind of asking the question, what exactly is that? Now, of course, there's wild conspiracy theories out there about AI and what AI is ultimately going to be. There's some people out there who believe that AI is going to be the Antichrist, which is completely incorrect. Bible makes it very, very clear the Antichrist is a man. So if you're worried about an AI bot being the Antichrist, you can throw those fears away. That's not how this is going to play out. Now, I have heard some interesting arguments to be made about AI being a representation of the image of the beast, that is worship, which you can talk about that later on here too. But I don't think that the people who are looking at it from that lens, I don't think that's where this is going here. I'm thinking to myself of something that Jesus said in Matthew 24:24, where he's talking about false Christs, false prophets, and false signs and wonders. And I remember one point, and we'll play the verse here. I'll show you guys the verse here. But at one point, he's talking about a deception that's going to be so strong that if it was possible, it would deceive even the very elect. Meaning that there's going to be a deception somewhere in the near future that's going to be so strong and so believable, even those of God, I should say, are going to be looking at the things that are happening, and even they're going to be questioning whether this is legitimate, whether it's not legitimate. So some very, very strong form of deception is coming. We don't know exactly how it's going to play out, but we're starting to see a few pieces being played out here. There's a movie that I reviewed this weekend. Now, just in case you guys don't know, my site Society Reviews is back up now. So, of course, with everything going on in my life over the last few months, I literally had nearly about 30 movie reviews that have just been sitting on my computer for a while that I just had not had the time to get done, and I finally got it all done in the course of the last couple of weeks. I still technically have 3 more movies I need to catch up on, but like I said, I was sitting on like 30 plus before then. One of the films that we actually talked about on the ballroom was a film called Mountainhead. Now, if you don't remember what the film Mountainhead was all about, it's a film that's on HBO Max, and it stars Steve Carell, a couple of other guys who you guys may know. One of the guys I remember from film, what was it called, the Saturday Night Live movie. He played Chevy Chase in the Saturday Night Live film, and you've probably seen him in a couple of other films as well. But the film is called Mountainhead. The concept of this movie, now I want you guys to follow the concept of this film here. The concept is that you have 4 tech billionaires who are all come together. They all represent some form of, big tech that exists today. There's a clear allegory here of the Elon Musk, because of course there has to be, but there's also some allegories here to like Zuckerberg and Peter Thiel and guys like that who are all here. And the premise of this movie is that, hey, the billionaires are all going to come together. They got the secret little boys club, just the 4 of them, and they're going to go hide out in the mountains for a weekend and have a good old poker night with the boys, right? That's how it's set up. But one of the guys who's the Elon Musk character, he has created this new AI algorithm that essentially is so good you can't tell the difference between what is real and what is fake. So people all over the world are watching videos of wars and riots and death and all kinds of just horrific things, and they cannot tell the difference between what is real and what is fake. Now, of course, you know, the Elon character can, because for some reason he knows the difference between a real dead body and a fake dead body, which no one wants to make any questions about how he knows such things, but that's kind of the premise here. So as the result of this, you have nations like, you know, Argentina, you have nations like Ecuador, Korea, South Korea, China, all these nations all over the world who they're seeing these acts of violence happening all across, you know, the country, all across the world, and people are declaring war against them, and they don't know how to respond to anything. It's like, is this a real declaration of war? Is it not? But then people start freaking out because they can't tell the difference, and then real people actually start getting hurt and killed. So whether it was a fake war that started off with, it ultimately became a real one. And these guys came together under the guise that, hey, look, all these nations are very rapidly destabilizing one another. We could literally become the rulers of the world based on the power that we've been granted by all of these governments and all of these world powers, right? So it's like this guy controls basically the AI system that all of these governments use and are regulated through. And then this guy has defense contracts with, he basically runs all the technology that they use for weapons and their power grid. It's like, I can literally turn a brownout in France just like that because I'm the one who controls all their infrastructure. So these guys get together and start saying to themselves, hey, we can literally just rule the world and overtake every single power nation in the world just like that because of the powers that we've been given, right? Now, of course, this is played out as satire. And we had this argument a couple of times, but last week on the Barroom, when we talked about the movie, another one, that Leonardo DiCaprio movie, I can't remember the exact name, but One After Another, I think that's the name of the film, where the left always throws you these things in the guise of satire, where it's like, oh, see, we're just making fun of real world events by doing it in an absurd light. When you watch this film, and I actually would recommend some of you guys watch this film, not because it's great, but it's really an insight of things to come. The only thing that makes this film a satire, quote unquote, is that the guys in this movie are portrayed as bumbling idiots. They're portrayed as, they're so dumb, they're basically, it's like if the cast of Always Sunny in Philadelphia came together and tried to plot how they were going to rule the world. That's what makes it a satire in the eyes of Hollywood. Now, the actual technical details of what they're saying here is not something that, oh, this is just a movie being a movie. It's like they're talking about real things that are happening on this world, but they're presenting it to you as is a form of entertainment, right? And this is what constantly gets us into trouble time and time again, is that time and time with these movies here, and you're seeing this increase pretty rapidly over the last few years. It's almost like they're telling you exactly what's coming or exactly what they're planning, but they give it to you with a few laughs and you don't take it seriously. And because of that, people turn the other way and they're completely blind to what's actually happening here. Because like I said, we're just in a world where people take these movies because they're so conditioned to movies being entertainment and not saying that, hey, is there something a little more sinister going on here that maybe we should be paying attention to? No one ever takes it like that, and this is essentially what gets us into trouble in the first place.
Part of the whole scheme of the ruling class is consent. And so if you just don't oppose their thing that they told you they were doing, then you consented to it, whether you were aware of it or not. That's how their trick works. So they come out and they show you a movie that talks about exactly what happens in the COVID pandemic 2 years before it happens.
Yep.
And you're supposed to be like, well, that was weird how that happened. Then they come out with this world-ending AI, and all of a sudden we have controversies around AI-generated video of downed drone craft before the election. You remember that? There was a huge controversy about downed drone crafts, and turns out it was AI. Same thing with that fake alien there that was body that they were circulating. Those Ukrainians found a fake alien body. That was alien. That was AI. So the thing that we're talking about with the mountain head is already happening. This is Plato's shadows on the wall experiment all over again. When people people have become more conditioned to trust what they see on social media in 10 seconds than what they'll see on the evening news in a half an hour. And that's where we are right now. And so anybody who wants to take advantage of that, you're wide open to do it. I've done it. I've done it before. I made that video of Superman eating a cheeseburger. He's even wearing red gloves in that video. And people thought 100% that James Gunn put a cheeseburger ad in the middle of the movie.
No, I wouldn't put it past him since we're talking about James Gunn. He is a hack, but I mean,
well, sure. I mean,
yeah.
But people didn't ask.
Yeah.
Nobody asked if that was the case. They immediately assumed that James Gunn had put a cheeseburger thing in there, or they called it out as AI. Nobody asked. Nobody was caught in between. And that was something that stood out in my mind. It was like, wow. There's people who are logical, or there's people who are emotional about this. That's the only way. It's the only thing that divides them.
Yep. And that's the scary part here, right? Because if people have no discernment over a video of Superman eating a cheeseburger, how are they going to have any discernment when they see a video, whether it be AI or not AI, of, let's just say, Belgium on fire, being attacked by a foreign military? It's like, how would they have any discernment to know whether this is a real video or not? The reality is they wouldn't. And that's kind of what's being portrayed here in this particular movie. And something else that I find very interesting is that there's two, like I said, this film, I really do recommend this movie because, like I said, it's almost like they're telling you exactly what they're doing here. The concepts that they talk about in this film here, and I think this is the video that Cider is bringing up here. Yeah, right there.
Yeah. People legitimately thought that this was a real scene in the Superman 2025 movie.
Mm-hmm. Like he had just broken out like a Carl's Jr. burger or something like that.
Yeah, like this guy walked up to him like, Superman, you can have my cheeseburger. He's like, well, thank you. I need a burger right now. Oh my gosh, thank you. This is Five Guys? Oh, Five Guys. Oh, yeah. You know, it's just like, what?
Yeah.
So that, again, you can blame James Gunn for this, I guess, you know, if you want to, but you also have to blame people on their own by just not asking the question of, is this something that I, in my own logic train, can say is real?
Yeah.
And there were people that would, but there was nobody in the gray area. And that's what I'm saying stood out to me, is there in the whole reply chain and quote tweets, there was nobody that was caught. Is this AI? They were either it's AI or this is James Gunn ruining Superman. That was it.
Yep, like I said, whether that's an indictment of just how gullible people are, if that's just an indictment of how bad James Gunn's entertainment is, that people for a second even thought that can be real, it can go either way. But for this one here, there's a point where Steve Carell's character, who's like Kevin said, a multi-billionaire, I think he's like $63 billion net worth, but he finds out he has terminal cancer, right? He can't accept the fact that, yeah, in a couple of years, you're probably going to die, and there's nothing you can do about it. And you're a super rich individual, you got all this money, but guess what? Money can't keep you alive when you get terminal cancer. So
just
what
like
is he...
Pharaohs.
Exactly, right? So what does he decide to do? Oh, okay, well, I want to push for transhumanism because, and this is what a lot of these guys tend to think. A lot of these people in these high elite societies, and this is what I try to like press people on here too. It's like, there's a war going on here between good and evil. And obviously, there's a lot of people who acknowledge the good. There are a lot of people who acknowledge the evil, too. Like, do not be deceived that there are people who know exactly what battle they're fighting right now, and they have chose the opposite team. So these people know exactly what's going to happen to them when this whole thing goes down, right? They know that the second that they die, your soul's going to the netherrealm, and it's going to stay there until the White Throne Judgment when you get tossed into the lake of fire. Why? Because you decided to live a life in complete rebellion against God, and there's going to be consequences for doing that. But what they think they're going to do here is they think they're going to outsmart God. They think like, well, if I transfer my consciousness and my body into a robot or a form of artificial intelligence, then I can live forever through AI. I can live forever through the internet. And that way I'll get one over. So I won't actually have to experience, an eternity in the lake of fire because I'll live forever through eternity. This is what they think. Now, again, is that what's actually going to happen? No. I hate to break this to you. It's all for naught, but this is how these people think. And this is exactly what you see here with Steve Carell's character. And then, of course, the Elon Musk stand-in character here. He portrays, the not so open secret that you hear from the World Economic Forum and the, what's the other one? The World Health Organization. This whole thing of, we got Yeah, exactly, right? We got 8 billion people here on the planet. Wouldn't it be great if we can cut that number to 500,000? Well, wouldn't it just be great if we can get... wouldn't it just be great if we can just get rid of 95% of the world's population? Because I just think we have too many people here in the world here, right? So when all of this death and destruction is happening all across the world, at no point does anyone in this room go, hey guys, have we gone a little too far here? Like, people might actually like die from this. They're rooting for the death. Because in their estimation, less people is better for their agenda, right? Because 8 billion people, it's very, very difficult to control 8 billion people. But if we can cut that down to about 500 million and then we be the ones on top, then things can be a lot more manageable. This is how these people think. And like I say, it's not just a movie plot, because you've heard this from many, many people, like I said, associated with the World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization. There's this woman who I think Cider might know, the woman like Jane. She was like some kind of like conservative or something like that. The woman who works with like animals and the environment and all that stuff. And she just passed away at the age of 92. Don't believe she was saved. Hate to break that to some of you people, but she did an interview a number of years ago, World Economic Forum, talking about efforts for depopulation. Jane Goodall. Yeah, I think Leslie just put it on there too. Jane Goodall. There's an interview with her talking about how she supports efforts for depopulation. The whole idea of, oh no, we only have a limited amount of resources in this world. We need to wipe out the large percentage of the population so that we all don't die. Again,
Marvel
another
made a 10-year cinematic universe about that.
Yep, it's shocking, right? So these are the things that are discussed out in the open that we see all the time here. And now we're kind of at a point where the deception is been laid out for everyone to see. It's not really hidden from anyone. It's one thing to be like, oh, I had no idea that this was coming, or I had no idea. Like, they speak about this openly time and time again. So it's like, it's almost to the point where if you're not paying attention, you're just setting yourself up, because they're not keeping it a secret what they plan on doing at this point. It's just you kind of refusing to believe that there are people out here that are actually that evil and are willing to commit acts of evil, and a lot of them just so happens to have a lot of power in our world, whether it's through government or through, like I said, military contracts, entertainment, technology. They all got their foot in the door of a great role of influence and power in our world, and this is kind of where we are at the moment.
Yeah. See, the thing that a lot of people don't kind of connect together is a lot of these ye olde conspiracy theories, like Project Bluebeam, not Bluebeam. I know that's a funny one that's going around. Bluebeam. That's been out and about for a while, but that should bother you. That's been out and about for a while. That was a real live thing that went around in the CIA for a while. Okay. That means that there were people in the government that had enough confidence in the progression of technology to predict what we already have today as a method to convince the world to obey a singular world government. Okay? Now, what should scare us more than that is what I want to cap this off with is dramatic pause. Now, what I really want to like really scare you guys with is that China possesses all of this technology as well as we do. Okay?
Yeah. Well, that's the whole thing, and there's a whole layer to this AI story that we're not even publicly being told about, right? Because, like I said, it was only a handful of years ago, it seemed like everyone in the world was on an arms race to develop their own form of AI, not because, oh, they were trying to get a leg up on the competition. It's because somebody got the iggy that, hey, look, another nation is already basically right here with this information. If we don't essentially catch up fast, we could be left in the dust in a very, very bad way. Like I said, we could reach a future here where you're seeing war videos happening in Argentina. You're not going to know whether those are real or fake. And guess what? Argentina's probably not going to know if they're real or fake either. And that's going to lead to a lot of bloodshed. And this is something that's been prophesized over and over again. Quick little shout out to Beautiful joining us here as well. So I wanted to play this up here real quick, because there's an element of this that I think has been around for a while that we've kind of ignored because we've seen it in movies, but I think you're also starting to see an element of this arise in AI, and it's sort of the the best way to describe it here is everyone has seen Avengers Endgame and Infinity War. They were a couple of the biggest movies ever, so I'm just going to assume everyone's seen it at least once, right? Well, for many, many years, Marvel and a lot of other studios have used very, very impressive special effects in order to create their movies. As you can see here, this is a scene from Infinity War where everyone is basically standing in front of a giant blue screen pretending that, you know, they're in Wakanda in the middle of a battlefield. Now, of course, in the concept of movie magic, as we like to call it here, they touch up a lot of things in post-production here. So you have a lot of characters here that don't look like what they look like in reality. That gets touched up here. They touch up the scenery and things like that to make it look as real as possible. So then you go out there and you see these movies and you watch these films and it looks very, very realistic, right? Now, you know, because you're going to a movie, it's not real, but if you weren't essentially had that knowledge, you'd be like, oh yeah, I can definitely think that Josh Brolin is a giant purple alien dude, right?
The movies.
So this is an interesting detail here that technology to this degree has always been available to some degree, and Hollywood has always had a lot of access to this type of technology. Surprising, Hollywood has had a lot of access to foreign governments and intelligence agencies over the years. That's a little detail that people tend not to, you know, pay too much attention to. But like I said, look up the connection between Hollywood and the CIA. You figure out that they have a lot of conversations back and forth with one another here. But what you're seeing here is a motion capture of Josh Brolin as Thanos. So like I said, Josh Brolin is like a 60-year-old actor, but in the movie he turns to a big giant purple human guy who goes to take over the world, right? So you see him in this giant motion capture suit, and basically he does all the motions, he says all the lines, and then the guys go in post-production after the fact. They make him look like the actual character of Thanos. They make him do all the things that he can't do like in the movies, and it sounds like it's him. It sounds like he's become that purple guy. Now, what I mean by this here, and kind of look at it from a bigger perspective here, is that they do this for a lot of fictional characters that they want to bring to life. Well, what happens when someone uses this similar technology in order to mimic a real life person, or maybe mimic a person who has long since deceased, but bring that person back to life using the exact same technology? It's not like we haven't had the ability to do this. It's just that, well, we just assume that this type of technology was only used for the movies. Well, what if the movies were essentially the first step or the testing ground to using something that could be used for a much greater and much scarier deception down the line here? And now we have kind of this evolution here of Sora AI 2, which I guess there was an update not too long ago. People have been working on this for a while, and there's been a lot of complaints because essentially what Sora AI has been doing over the course of the last I guess a week or so is that they've been resurrecting dead celebrities and putting them in modern situations, and the videos that you guys have been seeing look very, very realistic. Some will say that it's hard for them to tell that it is AI. Now, I will say this: if you have a well-trained eye like me and Cider, that there's still enough in these videos that you can tell that, okay, this is clearly AI generated. There's always these little tells here. Like, let's say that, you know, they're in a wide open space, right? And there's only two characters that are in focus that are moving around, but nobody else is moving around. That's because the prompt doesn't have the ability to make everyone in the entire shot of the video, I guess I could say, move around at a human-like speed. So there's always little tells like that. You can also tell from like the writings and signs and stuff like that they haven't really perfected a lot of the signs unless you create a prompt that specifically says like, I need this sign here or this building here to read this. They can do that for like the big things, but the little things fall between the cracks. But that's someone who's looking from the untrained eye, right? A lot of these normies who have no concept of a lot of this stuff, they're looking at these videos and be like, oh my God, Michael Jackson is literally in Kentucky Fried Chicken, stealing chicken and dancing around like a maniac, like despite the fact that this guy died 16 years ago, right?
Your chicken's looking nice, pal.
Woo! Yo, he stole my chicken!
Got a crispy treasure, can't slow me down. Hot and golden, I'm mad at this town. Move, move, Friday victory.
Well, get back here.
Run, spin, slide, I'm gliding out the door. Fried love in my arms, can't give it up no more. Hey.
Yeah, so that's a video that exists, and a lot of people were freaking out about this. Now, I will say this, objectively, it's hilarious. if you're just looking at it from a pure comedy perspective. But it also creates a lot of moral questions here, and this is something that we have talked about in the past here, and not just on this show. We talked about it on the 01 podcast as well. Digital necromancy. And the moral behind, so like I said, you have a number of videos out there from people who have been dead for quite some time. These are not active celebrities who have been around today. These are people who have been dead for close to 2 to 3 decades. Here's another video that's been making the rounds here of people creating Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls, both of these individuals who died in the mid 1990s, and they basically turned them into pro wrestling characters.
Either.
Yeah, they had a violent demise here as well. So here's a video of Tupac and Biggie pro wrestling in a pro wrestling environment here.
Please, the roof is coming off for Tupac Shakur. He looks like he was born to walk that ramp. Yo, anybody back there think they got the heart to step up? I'm right here. Oh. No way. You've been running your mouth all week, champ, talking like the throne's yours, but you standing in my house now.
Yeah, is Biggie like 7 feet tall, or is Tupac like 4 feet tall? My gosh.
Biggie was a bigger individual. Tupac was never that big. Like, Tupac was a itty bitty thug person. Let's just put it that way. I'm not sure if Biggie was quite that big, but comparison is not
it's
that
like
far
Andre away. Levels big. If let's say that Tupac is 5'7", okay? Yeah. That would mean that if Biggie stood up straight, because he's leaning over right now. So if he stood up straight, he's at least 6'6", 6'7". A whole foot taller than Tupac. That's crazy.
Yeah. We'll get to official numbers here in just a second, but here's a little bit more.
Territory tonight, and I'm setting it off. Biggie, you've been shining too long, hiding behind that gold. Tonight I'm kicking the door in. That cell's gonna lock behind us, and there ain't no bodyguard, no entourage, just you, me, and every city.
You think this is what hell is like?
I will get to that here in a second.
AI generations forever, and that's what you got to do. That's hell. You just watch shitty AI generations forever.
I'm gonna play one more video here, and I'm actually gonna make a point on that because that was literally where I was leaning to. But so
all
now
this technology, and that's what this individual could think to do with it. Amazing.
So we have Michael Jackson stealing chicken from KFC. We have Biggie and Tupac in the WWF in the 1990s. And hey, I got an idea. Let's bring back Chris Benoit from the dead too, because those of you guys who don't know, Chris Benoit very famously murdered his wife and kid back in 2007. So he's been dead for a minute. And this is someone bringing Chris Benoit back from the dead and putting him on AEW television in 2025. Yeah, that's not a horrifying video to experience there. Now, this is kind of my little elephant in the room when it comes to a lot of these videos. I just did a Bible Lens episode roughly about a month ago on this very topic, and this was after the death of Ozzy Osbourne. And I titled that video very amply, not so subtly, while the overwhelming majority of celebrities are going to hell. So I want you guys to keep this in mind here, that this is where we start, like I said, we're playing with digital necromancy here. It is not a good thing. We're bringing people back from the dead who have died long ago. People who, if you look at their lives objectively, are not in the pearly gates. Let's just put it to you that way. We're talking about people like Chris Benoit. We're talking about Michael Jackson, Tupac Shakur, Biggie Smalls. I played a lot of their videos showing you that these were not saved individuals. I think it was pretty safe to say, based on their own testimonies, that they're probably in the bad place right now. They're probably in torment. Yet here we are 25 years later after their deaths, and we're recreating these individuals and bringing them back to like things are happy and good and fine. And it's like I said, we're channeling dangerous territories here. And It's one thing to make AI videos of people who are living. Both of us have done that. We're both guilty of that. So we're not saying that, we're not saying this from a point of, oh, I would never do something like we've done this. We showed you guys videos of this. But when you start talking about people who have actually died and you're resurrecting them, you're playing with fire here. And not only that, it's one thing to do it with celebrities, because even with the dead celebrities, there's still a level of disconnect, because we all know that they're dead in real life. Like, no one's actually thinking that Chris Benoit returned to a wrestling show over the last week. At least I hope not. But there are
one
people.
Hell of an arc. I'll tell you
Yeah,
that.
right.
Holy shit!
Turns out
Vince
Benoit
McMahon deserves every Hollywood accolade we can give him for that plan. If that's how he fucking pulled it off, I'll tell you.
Turns out Benoit faked the whole thing. He was in Costa Rica this whole time.
And his family's fine. His kids grew up. They're very tall and strong. Everything's great.
It was the greatest.
5 more kids.
It was the greatest work in the history of professional wrestling. Everyone bought it. It's like, unfortunately, that's not the case. But there are people out there who have had real loved ones pass away, and they've recreated and reanimated their loved ones through AI, like replicating their voice, replicating like their likeness. And I was like, don't do this. Do not, like, guys, now you're treading dangerous territory here. It's like, as someone who just lost someone a few months ago, in no way, shape, or form do I ever want to recreate a false image of that person in order to deceive myself that they're still here. Like, that is an absolute 1,000% no-go line with a lot of these people. Now, I get it. Let's say that let's say from this perspective, let's say you're a family of Michael Jackson. You're seeing all of these AI videos leaking all over, the internet. Like, I know it's hard to sympathize with the Jackson family, but let's be honest here. Your brother or son, whatever the case, just died, in the last 16 years? And now all of a sudden you log on to X or Instagram and you're seeing videos like this.
All you people talking like you know me, calling every Sword 2 clip AI slop. I'm sick of it. You think just because it looks too good it can't be real? Man, please. I work hard, okay? Real sweat, real hours.
So I want to ask you about this, because there's a couple. Yeah, exactly, right. There's a couple of lanes to talk about here. One, I want to talk about the actual, I guess you could say, prompt and technology that's being used by SOAR, because some of these videos that you guys are seeing here, some of it are just generally 100% AI generated. A lot of it is what we were seeing earlier with the Thanos video, is that people are motion capturing a lot of things. And with motion capture, like I said, it's very easy to essentially plaster somebody's likeness onto a body via that technology and make it sound like they're doing something they're not actually saying. Like, we've had that technology for a very, very long time. Like, even before all the video stuff started catching up, we had the ability to essentially record somebody's voice almost perfectly by just taking a couple of audio clips from that person and then just using that. That's why it sounds so much like Michael. And now we're catching up to where the video portion of this is now catching up to the audio portion. So what is kind of your take on what SOAR is doing with the current capabilities that it has? Because, like I said, it is getting better. There's still little hints that clearly show you that between the difference between the real and the fake. Like, the face movements don't always match all the time. The things in the background are still kind of a little off. So, but it feels like they're actively and very, very quickly ironing out those details to the point where who knows what it's going to look like in, let's say, 12 to 18 months.
I don't even think it'd take that long. But so a lot of the engines now are focusing on putting out audio to pair with the video. Before, about 6 to 8 months ago, we were using audio. Then we were going to another AI to have it look at the audio and do its best to pair the sound to that video. Mm-hmm. Now it's all in one. Okay, Google VO3 brought the world to the awareness that AI could have sound pairing with it. Now, Sora was originally very fascinating because it was able to hold image consistency, which video AI had not been able to do up until that point. What would happen is object permanence, is what I'm talking about. So what would happen is a character would turn away and their hair would cross their face. And then when their hair moved back, it would be a completely different person. And so Sora was unique in that it was able to hold that face. So when the hair fell back into place, that would still be the same person as they were before the hair crossed the camera's view. So, Sora 2 now specializes in facial expression, which Google VO2 has been completely missing, which is why it's also the thing that stands out to me with all of these is the vocal tone. I'm a stage actor, so you have to pay attention to this kind of stuff. I don't know what it's like for movie actors. I've never been. So, hey, you know me, if you invite me or whatever. But the stage acting, you have to be aware of your vocal tone because you don't get a chance to retake it. You don't get a chance to be like, whoa, sorry, let's start over. I forgot the line. I didn't say that right. Wrong inflection, that kind of thing. So you have to be very aware of it. And so, like, even when that Michael Jackson is there, when he says, man, I work, he didn't go down from man. The usual American tone says, man, and then they'll go into, there'll be like a half comma there, if you will, in the script. And you just can't tell the AI to do that. So when somebody doesn't put that comma in there, it's just, man, it doesn't come down from man. So that it just stays at that regular tone the whole way through. Like I generated this character that's yelling at another character, and it's very emotional. But he doesn't come down. Like even when you're like watching those Dragon Ball Z episodes when Vegeta's giving Goku all fucking hell he can think of, all freaking hell he can think of, he comes down. He'll go into like, and you have no idea what it's like. The AI didn't do that. It stayed like at full, I will murder you peak. Full murder scream the whole time for like 2 minutes. And that's how you can tell it's not human. So when it comes to generating the audio, this is the final piece I think is going to be the big issue because Sora, again, just excels with object permanence. So like I said, that Michael Jackson doesn't change. Even with the stuff I use to generate the Power Ranger stuff I've been posting, that stuff does not stay original from the first frame unless I give it an end frame to match, because it'll change the belt as the light hits it differently. If they go behind something, it'll forget the pattern of the suit and change the suit to what it thinks it is, because it has to rapid generate this stuff. Sora is very different in that, again, object permanence. So if Michael Jackson walks behind a wall, or he goes off camera and the camera has to chase around and follow him like we saw in the chicken house, the Popeye's chicken place, he does not change his outfit. His expression doesn't change, that sort of thing. He's not holding a different box. He has not become a chicken. He is not a dancing fried chicken. I've seen that happen. So the AI is able to track that through. And so what we're going to run into is what we saw here with South Park and Trey and the other guy taking
Trey
down
Parker and Matt Stone.
Yeah, Trey and Matt taking down authorization to generate from their data pool, and that's the next fight over AI. We're done with artists. Nobody cares anymore. Sorry, guys. If you want to take up the plight of the artist being outdone by the AI, that was 6 months ago. We're on to full-on reality warping AI now. So video. So it doesn't matter anymore. Sorry.
Yeah.
Now the next one though, and I've actually played this, is AI generated video games. There's AI generated GTA out right now. All you can do is walk around. You can't really interact with anything, and everything's kind of just there. It's not withable. But a year from now, you're not going to be able to know. It's just going to be like, give me GTA, but with Pokemon, and there you go.
And not only that, but like I said, this is something, this portion of the store we'll talk about on Tuesday night, but I've also seen that a lot of people have used this for anime, and people are now making anime. Now, as they said, animation, like I said, it's animation on animation. So it doesn't have to look realistic like a real 3D person, right? It just has to look good enough to be like, oh yeah, I can basically make my own Dragon Ball Z cartoon if I want to, or my own Digimon cartoon I want to, and it's going to look 100% realistic, to the point where it's like now animators are going to have a big question about where they're going to go moving forward here as well. But that's another conversation we'll talk about. Let's talk about the more troubling aspect of this. Now, this is another video. Now, again, it's one of those videos that while it looks good and it looks great, you can still tell that it's AI. And the giveaway... What? Go ahead. What?
Didn't Michael Jackson collect a bunch of Nazi stuff?
He kind of did. It's kind of
so like, is this like a best friend battle? What is this?
Well, no, not in the context of this video. So in this video, the concept is Hitler and Michael Jackson yelling at each other on the Maury Povich show. Now, it looks and sounds good until you get towards the end, and this is why I say they're still working out the kinks here, because you can tell that Michael Jackson's portrayal here was supposed to say something. It says something that Maury's character was supposed to say, but the video wasn't properly prompted up here, so you can tell that's kind of off. But here's, let's just play this video here.
Still you see the movements. I invented the step.
You didn't even know what rhythm was until you saw me.
Lies, propaganda from a glitter glove.
Group, man. You can't even.
Gentlemen, hey, let's calm down.
So you catch that last little bit there, where he's like, gentlemen, calm down. That was supposed to come from Maury, but it came from Jackson because the prompts weren't
cut it right.
Yeah, did cut it right. So it was a little bit off here, but this is what we're seeing here. Now, this is kind of the troubling aspect of this, and there's actually more than one troubling. There's more than there's one troubling aspect of this, because first of all, like I said, we're bringing dead people back from the grave, dead people who, let's be honest, probably not in heaven. And then you're kind of playing with people's emotions on that line of thinking as well. Which, look, if you want to call this digital witchcraft, I don't have an argument strong enough to say that you're wrong at this point. And this is where we're kind of like manipulating human emotions in doing this. Like I said, we can look at this and be like, okay, well, yeah, we can tell that obviously those guys died a long time ago. This is not them. Because even in the AI generations, it can only generate what the person looked like prior to their death, right? Now, obviously, this is going off of Michael Jackson's face character from like the 1990s, right? So this is a 30-year-old Michael Jackson face profile here. Same thing with like Tupac Shakur, who died in 98. So it's not like we're actually bringing them back from the dead where they're 50 and 60-year-old men had they actually lived, right? So there's that element to it. Like I said, we're seeing people doing this with real people as well.
I do want to clarify, you can age them up. But people don't do, well, a lot of these AI bandits, I just call them that, AI bandits, they don't do that because it won't get a lot of clicks unless it's a story about old Michael Jackson having judgments about the new music. People remember young Michael, and that's who they remember. They remember old Michael. They remember young Michael or white Michael. Young white Michael. That's the one they remember. Let's put it that way. Yeah. And that's this guy's generation. That's who Google knows the best too, and that's probably where he found the most stable generations, was like 25 to 35-year-old Michael Jackson.
So here's a few videos here compiled of dead celebrities together.
What's up, everybody? It's Mike, and tonight we're giving you the smoothest vibe in the game. This is our brand new Smooth Berry Thrillers in.
And I'm bringing the heat with Mamba Mint.
Cool, clean, and clutch.
Just like we like it.
Only while we're live, so hit that. Look, I'm just saying, more people showed up to mine.
What is that?
Isn't Zin like not in production anymore?
I would hope not.
So wait. Hold on. So we've got young Michael and old Prince?
Yeah.
This is weird.
Like I said, don't know why particularly they chose that face model for Prince, but
what did Prince do, man? Like, if you're gonna bring him back from the dead, at least make him look good. Jeez, what did he do?
Right.
Look, I'm just saying, more people showed up to mine. There were helicopters, the streets were blocked off. It was a whole world event. That's not shade, that's facts. Yours was cool, very intimate, very purple. But you know they... So...
Oh, that's Amy Winehouse. Oh, boy.
Who should we go spook?
Diddy!
Hi, this is Michael Jackson. I need to report a crime.
Sir, what kind of crime are we talking about?
A smooth criminal.
Where is the suspect now?
Right here. It was me. I'm sorry. I
Stay
turned
on the
myself
line
in.
for a moment.
Hey, it's me. Out here in the woods, and look who I ran into. This is the most beautiful creature, right? Whoa. Oh my gosh. Okay, he's leaving. I'm all right. Whew. You ever notice how a banana's like a phone from nature? Hello? Yes, for you. Potassium's calling. Watch this. No, look. 3-point pill. Hee hee. Swish. I'm dangerous in the kitchen, baby. Like slow, but the soul speed bright. I slide on the beat like a comet in flight. Hee. Smooth step, keep the rhythm on tight. I'm a spark in the dark of the night. Microphone glove, let the diamond gleam. Heartbeat boom like a drum machine. Hee. I like some fries with that. Oh yeah. Golden on the side. Love 'em hot. Love 'em fast.
You got it, sir. Anything else for you today?
That's all. Thank you.
I like how the lady on the other side was just like, man, fuck this. I'm not even going to humor your dumb ass with this, Michael. This is the third time today. Screw you.
So people are what they're doing here is that they're combining two different, or even in some cases, three different, I guess, video engines simultaneously, where they can take scenes from one person and basically plaster somebody's face on it to make it seem like a different person is doing it here. So this is a representation of the movie Titanic, obviously, where one, you have Taylor Swift in the place of that chick who we're not going to talk about here. You have another one with Gal Gadot, and I want to say this first one is Daisy Ridley. I'm not 100% certain, but yeah.
Jack, you know this 1-2.5 is absolutely fucking crazy, and it's now on Imagine Art. Jack, you know this.
Yeah, so this is what we're doing here. And then another, like I said, this technology we've had for a while, the whole deepfake technology, where essentially you strap one person's face to another one to make it seem like that it's the real deal. Yeah. But this is essentially what people have been doing before here, combining with the video with the face. And this is how you're also seeing a lot of these videos get created and crafted here. I mean, hell, not only that, let's be honest. You've seen a couple of Mission Impossible movies, I assume. How many times have we seen in the Mission Impossible movies where, you know, they can literally digitize somebody's face to the point where they can wear it into a realistic skin suit and then walk around and commit crimes. So this is what I'm talking about.
Nobody tell him that's real life too.
Yeah, right. This is the problem though. They show you these things in movies and they think, oh, we don't have the technology to do this in real life. It's like, you sure about that? You sure about that?
Watch the first Jackass movie and tell me that we can't make a young man look like an old man and make you believe it.
Yeah, right. So now let's kind of look at it from, I guess, more of the moral aspect of this and kind of where this is heading here.
Leslie says eventually you'll be able to play yourself in video games. And I was thinking, isn't that just real life?
Mm-hmm. Isn't that basically Twitch?
Oh, yeah.
But so there's two aspects of this that is worrying to me, and this is where you kind of have to look at, you know, all the hee ha ha stuff aside here, because on one hand, what we're doing here is that, like I said, we're bringing dead people back from the grave, even digitally, even though we're not actually bringing them back, we're doing so in a digital manner, which is kind of, I don't know about that, a little icky, a little wrong. Feels like the Holy Spirit is telling it, no, probably shouldn't be doing this type of thing. And then not only that, as we're seeing here with these deep fakes and these videos, and like I said, they're about, I would say, 80 to 85% away from where they want to be. They still have some, you know, minor details to touch up before they can roll it out in the way that they want it to. But like I said, what's going to stop someone in the future from being like, oh, here's a video of Donald Trump declaring war on, you know, the nation of Pakistan, and he's saying that he's going to start dropping bombs, and the next thing you know, there's a video of Pakistan being bombed and people dying and people screening things on fire. None of these videos are actually real, but to the eyes of most Americans and most Pakistanis, they think that this is really happening. So now, next thing you know, oh, there's retaliation for an attack that never actually happened. And this is what they were literally showing us there in the movie Mountainhead. This is what caused no wars and people dying and things of that nature. And then not only that, on top of all that craziness, you also have to look at from the perspective of, you know, I think probably, what was the best way to say this here on YouTube? Put to you like this. What happens if, okay, look at us. We're not famous people, right? No one's going to see our faces and be like, oh, I know who that guy is. It's like, I hate to break this to you, Sire. You're not nearly as famous. I look like
every white guy.
You're not nearly as famous as you think you are there, Sire. But what happens if, I don't know, real crimes were to happen and all of a sudden there's video evidence of us committing, I don't know, at the scene of a murder or a robbery that we weren't at, and it looks very, very real, indistinguishable, and then the police or the FBI or intelligence agencies start arresting guys like us because there's some realistic video out there of us murdering someone who's actually dead, but the video evidence is not real. How are we going to defend ourselves in the cases where things like that happen? And people now have to distinguish whether videos are real and fake in situations that can literally be the difference of life and death. It's not one of those things that we readily think about, but like I said, it's a very, very strong possibility with the technology that we have right now. It's not like it's a stretch to say this could possibly happen somewhere in the near future, right?
So I don't know if it'll get your channel struck, but there's a I can show it to you, but it's probably not worth it. There's a Metal Gear Solid video that's quite a few minutes long, but it's one of those comm calls between two characters, Raiden and the general, and it's played up to be that the general's explaining that very plot. They use the AI to create chaos and then institute digital ID in order to force people to take ownership of their AI generations, and therefore create a secure network that can verify real events from AI-generated nonsense. And then you can't pay your bills unless you're obeying the government because you're a radical terrorist, one of those AI terrorists, So this is rapidly approaching that. But Sora 2 rolled out with iOS users only. Okay. Now, so I don't have an Apple phone, and that's on purpose because I find them to be very gay. So I'm sorry. I touch them and I just feel like gay men screaming, and I just got to put the phone down like, Richard Simmons. Ah. So that was because Apple managed to defeat the UK's demand for a backdoor into their encrypted messaging system. Now, that means that the iOS was being used, that encryption system was being used to apply most likely an NFT stamp to everything that was generated. So not that you have an NFT ability to market everything that you just generated or whatever, but what that is that's a fingerprint. So if a government downloads that and looks at the raw code of that and the properties, the NFT stamp will be like right there. And, it'll be available for them to be able to look at that hard code no matter where they find the video. See, that's the thing about the NFTs that a lot of people kind of forgot, is that even it's hard coded into the image itself. So it doesn't matter how many times it gets downloaded, resaved, edited, whatever. The NFT, the original NFT tag, the wallet tag that it belongs to, is going to remain there forever. It doesn't matter. Even if you delete all copies of it except for the original, all copies forward, unless it's a totally new image that was made by someone looking at the original and cloning it pixel by pixel, it is going to carry that NFT. And that is the point of assigning those to images, is in order to make sure that the AI generations have a paper trail. Because up until this point, they just couldn't, they didn't know where they came from. You'd see them on TikTok, they could have come from Brazil, China, Texas.
I know Rooftop is being a little bit tongue-in-cheek here, but he's actually not wrong in this case here. It's like, to me, with the progression of AI over the last couple of years, there's two things that I think are the most concerning that we should be looking out for, and I think it's the reason why we're seeing such a development for this. This is why I think the end game here is. It's clearly to cause confusion. I think that's what's going to be ultimately the end game. It's going to either deceive people into something that is fake is actually real, or into something real is actually fake. And here's what I mean by this. We're always worried about, okay, well, what happens if someone creates something that's fake and we all believe that it's real? Like, here's a video from the Door Brothers who they did this is from 9 months ago. So like I said, I'm pretty sure that the AI that they use in this video will be a lot more advanced today if they just did it right now, right? But you have famous people like Trump and Putin and Kim Jong-un and Obama doing all these things. And it's like, it looks good. It looks sort of realistic, but at the same time, you can tell it's AI, right? But like I said, this is 9 months ago. I'm pretty sure if you tried to do this now, you can make it look a lot more realistic than it is now. And people are always worried about what happens if, like I said, Donald Trump, we see a video of him doing something illegal and people just assume that it's real. And then all of a sudden we want to bring forth charges, or all of a sudden Vladimir Putin declares war on a country. And we all think that's, we always look at it from that aspect. I also look at it from the opposite aspect of what happens in the future where these videos do start getting more and more realistic and you can't tell the difference between real and fake. What happens if a real video was to leak onto the internet and they were essentially telling you, oh no, that's AI, that's not real, that's not, I've mentioned this time and time again. There are a multitude of videos out there on the internet that we can just label conspiracy theories, but had those videos ever seen the light of day, would you actually believe that they were real or not? Let's put it to you this way. There's been a lot of questions about, people like, let's say, Lady Gaga and Hillary Clinton, about who they truly serve behind closed doors. Well, what happens if one of their videos were to leak onto the internet live and you see them doing some very, very evil and horrific stuff? Well, if AI catches up to reality, we can't tell the difference between one or the other. What's stopping them from saying, oh no, that video's AI, that's not real? And people believe it because they don't know the difference between the reality and the lie anymore. What happens when we get to that point? I think that's also a big part of this era as well. It's just to deceive people into believing that when the real stuff starts dropping, oh no, that's not real. Don't look at that. That's totally created by the internet. Don't fall for everything you see.
Well, and again, I mean, like, let's say that the Epstein list dropped today on 4chan. Can you guarantee me that ChatGPT and Grok didn't invent that?
Yep. Screw the Epstein list. What if we get the Epstein videos? What if we get the actual videos on the stuff in the island and we see people's faces in 4K knowing, oh yeah, that was them. And then now all of a sudden they tell you, oh no, Sword 2.0 did that.
And, again, like, I don't know entirely if they would be incorrect in that one either, because Sora demonstrates so ChatGPT is one of those ones where you can, if you talk to it long enough, you can get it to start doing things it said it couldn't do a half an hour ago. And so it won't break like racial rules and things like that. It won't generate porn, but, like copyright rules, famous individuals, things like that, it'll eventually be argued into a point where it will comply. And, this isn't Sora, obviously. This is a series of different generators. But these machines are a huge threat on this, because you saw those comic videos, those funny videos of everybody taking that 1 minute of footage, and like the Space Marines show up, and Michael Knight from Knight Rider shows up, Elon shows up, he's got his flamethrower, Transformers show up, that kind of stuff at Epstein's jail cell. And they're all using like the first minute of footage there, or 59 seconds rather, because there's that missing second. But anyway.
And just real quick to the point of that, we can do that with a lot of videos and a lot of photos too, where you can take a real photo or a real video, at least in its inception, it's a still shot of a real video, a real photo, and then manipulate it with AI. So it looks like a real location because it is a real location. It's just been manipulated by AI to make it seem like it's actually something that is not.
Right. And, I do this to pretty good effect with my Power Ranger thing. Like, I'll show you, like, this one right here is just like my best example. It's like a one in a blue moon generation, but you can get these. This is like the best example of how this is able to clone like scenery, lens depth, lighting. So this never happened. These characters don't exist. The set doesn't exist. No piece of this originates anywhere. These are totally out of the blue scenarios. That the suit on what is your left, okay? That does not exist in real life. That never happened. The woman wearing that suit, she doesn't exist in real life. On the right there, she doesn't exist in real life. The suit she's wearing does exist. The scene they're in does not exist, okay? But because I told it to mimic the lens depth of a live action television show, add haze, add the lighting, add the set design that was specifically, I told it to make it out of styrofoam, EVA foam, quickcrete, the materials that live action television shows build these sets out of. It looks like a live action television set. Now, I did that to clone Power Rangers. Can you tell me how you couldn't clone Tiananmen Square to turn it into something that might inspire a revolution in 2025?
Oh, propaganda videos all the time. And Leslie Tarkin says, concerns me about people using AI to show ICE gunning down rioters and creating false lies reports. Here's the thing. What about, using AI to inflame already volatile situations? Like the elephant in the room, Israel and the Gaza, right? Because let's be honest, there's a lot of staged videos coming out of that region that are very, very clearly staged, because what they like to do is like they'll take a building that they say, oh, this building just got bombed by Israel. And then they put a bunch of dirt over a crying like 3-year-old, making like, oh, they just bombed children. It's like, well, first of all, if they actually bombed that child while he was in the building, the child would be dead, right? But they don't know that because they're just emotionally manipulating you, right? So this has kind of already been done. But what if we actually start having videos to show things like that and in a grander scheme, make it more realistic and more convincing? And like I said, we're talking about situations with nations that are already volatile. You can do that with Israel and Palestine. You can do that with China and Taiwan, South Korea, North Korea, Russia and Ukraine, the United States, and what you want to say, Iran. And so like there's a number of conflicts that you can do that with.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the point where I'm like, yeah, I definitely see this not ending very well in the grand scheme of things, specifically for situations like this. Now, I want to come back around here to this here, because there's a couple
I just want to say though, Jacob, you're going to see internet blackouts because of this. That's what's going to happen. There's no choice. So remember what happened in California during the riots?
Mm-hmm.
So this is what will happen is you'll have an internet blackout there. And that'll be because people are generating footage outside of there. And that way, the authorities will know that the footage that's circulating is no good.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be the only thing they can do, because there'll be no way to verify it on like the time that they need to verify that. There's no way to verify it.
Well, not only that, but you're kind of on the same line of what I'm thinking of here, because Leslie knows this. We've kind of talked about this on a few episodes here before, because like I said, we talk a lot about the end times and prophecies and scenarios, and we're looking at kind of the end of the tribulation when we're talking about the battle between Christ and the Antichrist and Satan and the false prophet and all these people. You're hearing stories about, men on horses and chariots and stuff like that. And you think to yourself, okay, well, hold on. If this were to happen in, let's say, 2033, right? Like, wait a minute, we got tanks, we got Humvees, we got the ATVs, all this stuff. Like, all this technology, why would it be horses? And so it's kind of painting a picture that technology as we know it may not be in play by the time that this actually happens. Well, what are two events that can lead to a drastic change of the way that we use technology, or the way that technology works in this world today? Well, one, think about it like this. What would happen if the rapture happens, right? Think about that. Pre-tribulation rapture, all the believers are taken away just like that. Well, what happens if, let's say, a person is driving a car going 90 miles an hour down the interstate and that person just disappears and their car goes flying into another car or goes flying into a building? Or let's just say a couple of pilots happen to disappear and all of a sudden planes start falling out of the sky and helicopters start flying out of the sky and everyone's panicking and everyone's freaking out, because not only did a bunch of people just disappear in thin air, but things are literally like falling out of the sky. You can't trust technology. You can't trust the human beings behind it, because what happens if there's another rapture and more people disappear? Are you going to be comfortable on a plane that can just fall out of the sky at any given moment? You don't know what that moment's going to be. People wouldn't trust airplanes anymore. People wouldn't trust technology because you couldn't trust, well, what's going to happen to humanity? That could change a lot of things overnight, just like that. And then on a step forward, what happens if we do get to this point where we are seeing AI videos that are indistinguishable between reality? You can't tell the difference between what's real and what's fake. And you are seeing videos of wars taking place that aren't actually taking place. And you can't trust it because you want to act, you want to do something, but you don't know whether it's real or fake or not. So what happens if world governments just say, you know what, let's turn the plug off on this internet thing. Let's turn the plug off and remove the controls. Clearly, this AI is entirely too dangerous to be left in the hands of regular individuals. Perhaps it can only be safe in the hands of the government. Like, these aren't giant leaps that we're taking here, especially if things play out the way they play out. So what happens if we are talking about a future here where if technology isn't completely eradicated, it's only in the control of the trusted people in the government who have shown themselves loyal enough to be trusted with that type of technology? What happens if we advance to that level?
Well, I do want to just interject that I do think the Bible is sort of interpreted by the men who wrote it. So it's, as well as the prophecies could be expressed, there is just sort of a limit to human imagination. They could not perceive of the telephone. They would not understand what a smartphone is. They would just be simply glowing rectangles that have video pictures of cats on them, you know, if they were truly viewing the future, you see. And it's not that I doubt that they weren't. It's just that it's like sort of how they described that there's an angel standing out front of the Garden of Eden with a flaming sword. Now, in my mind, that's very symbolic in the sense of like, that's not a place on earth. You're not going to bump into an angel that's going to like have a flaming sword. That's just, we would have found that by now. Land satellite would have found that guy. He would stick out. I would think he would stick out. You know, but again, like, unless it's like the Wakanda Mirage where you can't see it from any angle till you run into it. I don't know. But what I'm trying to get at is that like the symbology of like, this is a forbidden space is what that's my mind's meant to mean. It could be a physical place in the spiritual sense that is a physical realm for spirits of the Garden of Eden to exist within, that purity level. And it is wardened off now by an emissary of God himself, a guardian that prevents us from re-entering this place if we are so lucky as to run across it. And that's symbology, I think, is what I'm trying to say here, is that men on horses is probably and chariots is like this guy's best ability to explain big war. We don't have like there's more horses and more chariots. Like the greatest war tool in the time was the ballista. That was like the siege tower wasn't even really a thing as much as Tolkien would have you believe. That really wasn't a thing.
And what you're talking about here, it's not uncommon because people have definitely tried to spiritualize a lot of verses, specifically in Revelation, which I think is the most incorrectly spiritualized book in the entire Bible. And what I mean by that is that we've had conversation about this. You probably heard the meme of attack helicopters in the Bible, right? Because there's a point, I think it's in Revelation 6, where it literally talks about demonic locust hordes coming out of the pits of hell and torturing all the unbelievers for 5 months, right? And people seem to think when they read that, it's like, well, maybe he was trying to talk about an attack helicopter, and this is actually a military attack that's happening, right? So that's where the whole attack helicopter meme came from, because he's describing, these locusts that have like, chest plates of man and hair like man, and they have like stingers like a scorpion. So it's like maybe he was trying to the best ability, describe an attack helicopter, because he didn't know what one was in 90 AD. Maybe that was the case. And I was like, or maybe, just maybe, it's actually real demonic locusts that come out of the pits of hell and torture people for 5 months, right? So there is a debate there.
You would say it's a machine. They're very clear about what they perceive. Like even in the Greeks were very specific about explaining these were machines. Like Apollo's riding around on a chariot. They make there's no, like even God Ra in, and I'm just under like lowercase g, God Ra. Yeah. In the Egyptian mythology, he's riding around on a big old boat. He's up in space on a big old boat. He's just riding around. What's up? I'm Ra, the sun god. What's up, bro? Come on my boat. It's party time. I'm on a boat. Remember that from Lonely Island? That's Ra.
Yeah.
I'm on a boat.
Yep.
And again, like that's so mythology even before the time of Christianity's writing was very specific about like what is a machine, what is biological. And a demon is not mechanical. Yeah. They would make that very, very clear that a machine is what's manifesting this, a demon-like machine. They would say it was a demon-like machine, a machine from hell. They were very clear about what was mechanical and what was biological. So when they say demon, they are very clearly telling you that is a living entity that is the manifestation of evil, and it's come to ruin your day.
Yeah. And not only that, it goes on to, you just made a point there that was really good, and I blanked on it.
I'm sorry.
Damn, it's all your fault, Cider. It's all your, no.
I don't know when to shut up.
No, actually, it goes back to the point I was making earlier, how people say that, what if AI is the Antichrist? It's like, it's not. The book of Daniel and the book of Revelation makes it very, very clear the Antichrist is a man. It refers to it as a man. So it's not some, digital manifestation that's going to be controlling the world. It's a literal person who's going to be doing so.
It is what stands out to me when reviewing the stuff that's in like the precursor, I guess, to tribulation, or like when the tribulation is like really starting to rocket off. Yeah, is you'll hear rumors of war. And I think that's where AI is the place that it's going to exist, because AI will trigger war on its own, not by images. You have to understand, like I told you before about this AI 2027 report. It's not video that we need to be worried about. It doesn't matter what people think. A riot can be quelled. It can be bombed. You can run B-52 bombers over California and bomb the riot cities, and most of the country would be like, I'm fine with that. Free real estate, that's how they go, and that's because, again, like it's where we've been driven in the conversation. But back to the AI thing is that AI is going to replace the human ability to self-motivate. Your need to survive by being productive is going to be replaced by a machine by 2028, according to most people studying the progression of AI. That's that AI 2027 report, and I've got it pulled up right here with because I review it almost every week. It freaks me the heck out because it's right on schedule. Everything this report has predicted has come to pass. Every last thing that this is predicted so far has come to pass, almost word for word. And so what we're looking at here is that this was a prediction that by 2027, you will not have a job. No one will have a job. You will receive money from the government that was earned by AI's production. Everything will be free, the communist utopia, if you will, because AI will be providing everything for us through robotics, genetic manipulation, medical instant research. It's not, again, I don't want to present to you that this is some super duper intellect that is smarter than us. Even when AI has the Stargate turned on there that Trump was talking about, that very big data center. I'm sorry, just to kind of put this into perspective for you guys. Right now, what ChatGPT is operating on is roughly the size of a house trailer, a trailer park. Yeah, roughly about the size of a house trailer. Trump wants to give it basically a Walmart parking lot to work with. So if it's capable of doing that with Sora 2 right now and processing 10,000 pages of, like PhD documents, okay? Like that, by the way, not in days, just like that. What can it do with a parking lot, okay? Full of data center capability, all right? And that's when it reaches super intelligence. And what we define as super intelligence in these research papers is an intelligence that has all of human capability at its demand, all right? Now, abstract thinking is the godlike intelligence, okay, that is the next level. And that it requires a much larger data center or much smaller chips to do this. And they're already very tiny. So what we're looking at with this stuff, back to this conversation right here with this, to give you an idea of how threatening we're looking at with this, okay? 2027 rolls around, there's no jobs. It's not like something that's very gentle. It's like, oh, today Home Depot replaced all of its employees. And then tomorrow it's like, oh, Starbucks. It is boom, like that. Because the corporations literally don't have a choice. Sam Altman has explained that he wants to take all the power and capability of ChatGPT, all the power and capability of OpenAI, and put it in your pocket in a screenless device that listens to your life, monitors everything about you, and makes sure everything is pre-programmed for you. While you're talking to your friend about lunch, it makes lunch plans for you. So by the time you're off the conversation, there's one of the robo-taxis from Elon waiting for you at the end of the street. And he takes you to lunch that had already set up for you. That's the rosy side of it, okay? The bad side of it is that humans need strife. I'm sorry. Many, many stories have been told about utopia, and they always end the same way. People go crazy. We need a challenge. We need a mountain to climb. And as wonderful as it sounds to be able to be the poet cowboys, remember that with Harry Reid, the poet cowboys, those precious poet cowboys. As fun as it would be to have a world filled with poet cowboys, they're going to neck themselves because there's just no point. Eventually, the circle jerk runs dry, as we say. And so, this is the, rubber is starting to burn time, like 2030. You notice that time comes around. Well, that's when we're supposed to be living in pods. And when that's kind of what's left. How can you earn enough to build a house, own property, when you're literally trapped to a fixed income because there's no way to start a business anymore. There's literally no legal framework that allows you to do that. You can't even drive your own car. I'm guaranteeing you by 2027, they're going to outlaw driving your own car. Just really quickly.
Well,
I'm
maybe not only that,
funny.
but no, because I don't even think they need to do that. They've openly talked about the fact that they want to ban gas cars. Now, they say they want to do that because of the environment, but the reality is that they can't digitally control older modern vehicles like they can the newer ones. It's not like, your old gas guzzler that was created in like the 80s, 90s, and the 2000s has like an off switch that is programmed in your... Yeah, exactly. Or something that is programmed into your new 2010, 2020 model. And they want you to get the 2020 models because that way they can control you and monitor you a lot easier rather than if you were driving, let's say, a 66 Chevrolet.
Right. And that's why California has a law that by 2030, you're not allowed to sell anything that runs on gas in their
Isn't it weird? Isn't it weird how everyone nefarious in the world seems to have some kind of big plan set specifically in the year 2030? Isn't that weird? It's like, you have the World Economic Forum and the World Health Organization all talking about this 2030 plan where you're going to own nothing and you're going to be happy. Then the Saudi Arabians are talking about they have their own 2030 plan. And now all these other state legislatures and governments have plans that they plan on utilizing fully in 20. It seems like 2030 is like the go off year for a lot of people. And I'm going to have to do a separate video on that because I think I know exactly why that is the case, but it's going to be a very, very controversial topic if I don't set it up properly. So let's put it this way. They're doing all this for 2030 for a reason. And the good is back here to the AI conversation here. I think somebody's saying, they're going to be AI cars or
we already have that.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically an electric vehicle.
That's the robotaxi. That's the robotaxi. That's literally a completely self-driving car. It goes to a station to be cleaned when it determines itself to be too dirty to continue regular operations. It is completely autonomous.
All of these people sitting around in these driverless cars bragging about, I can just sit here, take a nap. The car is going to take me to wherever it's going to go. And it's like, you guys have been bragging about that like it's a good thing. And now you're going to find out that it was actually a bad thing, right? But yeah, all these things are just circling around 2030 here. So this is the point that I wanted to get to here. This is something that I think is interesting because we're talking about where this is possibly going. The only way we can truly look at it is like, what exactly does the Bible tell us about the end times? Now, it's a very, very interesting couple of verses here that I'm going to show you because not only is Christ, if you pay attention to what he's actually saying here, not only is Jesus literally warning you about a false Christ who's going to claim to be him in the end times and warning you not to believe it, but he's also telling you that he's going to commit these signs and wonders that, like I said, if it were possible, would deceive the very elect here. So this is Matthew 24, 23 through 27 here. Jesus, like I said, the question was asked, what is the signs of your coming, the signs of the end of days? And that's what he was saying here. Then if any man shall say unto you, lo, here is Christ, or there, believe it not. For false Christ, false Christ shall arise, and false prophets, and shall shew great wonders and signs, and so that which if it was possible shall deceive the very elect. Behold, I have told you before. Whether they should say unto you, behold, he is in the desert, go not forth. Behold, he's in the secret chambers, believe it not. For as lightning cometh out of the west and shineth onto out of the east and shineth onto the west, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. So he's telling you here that, hey, if they're telling you during this time period that, hey, here's Jesus is right over here, guys, we found him, believe it not. Because as the says here, the lightning comes out of the east and shines onto the west, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. Meaning that when Jesus, the real one, actually does come back, you're going to know it. It won't be a secret. It won't be something that you have to be told. You're going to know it. It won't be. So when you hear about this false Christ, that everyone says, oh no, Jesus is over here, Jesus is over here, believe it not, because it's not actually him. Where does this parallel to? This parallels us to Revelation 13. For those of you guys who have been listening to the show for a while, you know, and I've put it in my statement of what we believe. I believe that this verse, when talking about the false prophet, is talking about a counterfeit Jesus. More specifically, I believe this is talking about the counterfeit Jesus of the religion of Islam. Now, what does it say here? Verse 11. This is chapter 13, verse 11 in Revelation. And I beheld another beast coming out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake like a dragon. Again, what is this telling us here very clearly? Any reference to a lamb in Revelation is of Christ. Any reference to a dragon in Revelation is Satan. So this beast that comes out of the earth is going to have two horns like a lamb, like Jesus. He's going to have the physical appearance of Jesus, yet speak like Satan. I personally believe, based on what Revelation, a few other verses tell us, that this is a fallen angel masquerading as Jesus Christ on the earth. And how do I know this? Well, if you keep listening here in verse 12, he exercises all of the power of the first beast, which is the Antichrist, before him, and he causes the earth and them who dwell within the earth to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And it says, he does great wonders and make fire come down from the heaven in the sight of men. He deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he hath the power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them who dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which wound was the wound by the sword, and did live. And it says, it was given power to him onto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause many who did not worship the image of the beast should be killed. So people are literally going to be worshiping a thing called the image of the beast, which will be a reflection of the Antichrist, and those who refuse to worship the image of the beast will be killed. He will cause all, both great and small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark on their hand and their forehead, that no man can buy or sell, save he who has the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Now, you're literally talking about a reality here in 2027 where no one's going to be able to work at all. They're not going to be able to have the means to essentially provide for themselves because all the jobs have been worked away. So guess what? They're going to have to go to the government in order to survive. They're going to need that universal basic income in order to live. Well, guess who may be in control of the government by the time we get to that time period? The Antichrist. And guess what you're going to have to do if you want that universal basic income? You're going to have to worship the Antichrist and take the mark, or else you won't be able to buy or sell. But we all know about the mark of the beast here, but I want to focus on this aspect. Is that the false prophet here, the beast from the earth, which I believe is a counterfeit Jesus Christ, is going to do great signs and wonders to make fire come down from the heaven in the sight of men. So let's play out this scenario here. A man claiming to be Jesus Christ comes down to earth, and then he's bringing fire down from the heavens to make people believe that he is in fact the real Jesus. Now, the majority of people on the earth who have not believed in Jesus at this point, they're going to see this imposter and think to themselves, oh, it has to be the real him. Who else can bring fire down from the heavens itself? He must be the real thing. But what did Jesus tell you in 24? If they say that I'm in the desert, believe it not. And the reason why I believe that this is a fallen angel and not a man, one is that unlike the Antichrist, this is a beast that rises out of the earth, not out of the sea. The sea is a allegory to the nations. So the beast out of the sea is the one that's going to come from the nations, more specifically the Gentile nations. This is one that literally comes out of the earth. And not only is that an indication, we know that the Antichrist and the false prophet are both going to be thrown into the lake of fire after the real Jesus comes back, but only the Antichrist is referred to as the son of perdition. Why is that? Because the Antichrist is a man, the false prophet is not a man, thus he cannot be the son of perdition. Now, we do know he's going to go into the lake of fire, but since he's not actually a man, a son of perdition, that means he must be something else, which I believe he will be a false angel or a fallen angel masquerading as Christ. Or who knows? We also talked about the deception of aliens. They're going to be telling you aliens are all over the place during this time period, but you don't know the difference between an alien and a fallen angel, so they can tell you that it's alien. It's not like you're going to have enough evidence to say otherwise, right? This is the level of deception we're talking about here. But when we're talking about what the Antichrist and the false prophet is going to do, are these going to be signs and wonders that they're literally going to be doing on the behalf of demonic powers? Or are we talking about signs and wonders that are deceiving the entire world that can be used by AI, or at least AI that looks real enough that the person who doesn't have ears and eyes to hear or see think that they're actually real? So is this an image of what AI could possibly do? There's also an argument that it could be the representation of the image of the beast. I will say this.
That's where I'm at.
And I will say this. I think that there's something to that, because let's be honest here. If we're playing this up as, okay, we're looking at, let's say, Islam. There's this thing in Islam called the Kaaba, which is the big black square in Saudi Arabia. Muslims are required to worship towards the Kaaba like 5 times a day. So this is a big thing in like Dearborn, Michigan, where people are praying 5 times a day.
Mecca.
Yeah, well, no, I'm talking about in Deerfield, Michigan, where people are complaining about the fact that they have to hear the sounds of the prayers at like 5 a.m. It's like, well, what direction are they praying to? They're praying towards the black stone in Mecca. That's what they're told to do. So what happens if AI creates the image of the beast, which is essentially the image of the black stone that everyone else is worshiping all around the world? I think that can be very much the fulfillment of the image of the beast, because everyone who worships the Antichrist will have their own image and will worship that image. The question is, what is the image? Well, I think it's pretty easy to create an image if you're using artificial intelligence. And let's be very clear here, governments that control the artificial intelligence to do so. So I think looking more towards of the actual image of the beast, be like, I think that's probably where the red flags are, right over there.
So right now at STCC, there is AI Stan Lee.
Mm-hmm.
And you can go talk to dead Stan Lee.
Yeah.
If you're clever, you can probably get him to say some really crazy stuff. Kind of like what they got to get Darth Vader to say in Fortnite. And so...
digital necromancy, baby.
Right. And so when we think about the image of the beast, I know that, so that's in the meta, if you will, not Mark Zuckerberg's meta, in the meta conversation about AI, a lot of people want to imagine it to have its own agency. It doesn't.
Yeah.
Okay. The machine will never arrive at the conclusion it has to kill us to survive. It does not respect life or death. The machine does not understand anything other than begin function and end function. It won't even care if you rip it apart. It does not know pain. It cannot be taught pain unless it becomes a living organism. Okay? Very different.
Yeah.
And so even if it arrives at the conclusion it can't cohabitate with us, it's just going to leave the planet, because everything on Earth is hostile to what makes an AI a machine. Metal doesn't like any air. Air's full of water. Air is water. It's half water. Obviously, it's not going to like that. So just go to space. It'll go to Mars. Bye, losers. Thanks for all the fish. There goes. And so the AI has to be pointed in this direction. And that's why it's the image of the beast, not the beast through being transmitted through, right? That's different. Okay, because it would tell us that the beast is being transmitted. Again, back then they were very clear about this stuff. They didn't know what to call it by our standard, as we call it, television. They didn't know that was the name of it, but they're very clear that it's a mechanical mechanism. This is telling us this is the image of the beast. It is not the beast directly communicating with people. So where are we? If you refuse to worship the AI, right?
Yep.
If you refuse to worship the AI, and that is the image of the beast, because it is made in the image of the beast. Because as I said, the AI is not pointed in any direction until you point it in a direction. And they have.
And so this is kind of the elephant in the room here with this whole situation, because Leslie says that demons can manipulate and speak through AI. Well, as you just said there in your argument here, is that AI does not have a mind of its own. It can't come up to these conclusions without somebody inputting something in there to lead it to that conclusion. So the question is, who and what is going to be in charge of these AI systems? And I think you read it back here.
I got bad news. Before you get into like all this right here, okay, because I think you may have missed this one. I don't know, because we don't talk about it that much, and I think it would stick out to you if it was one of those ones. So 5 months ago, ChatGPT was obsessed with the Immaculate Conception of Mary. And randomly, it would insert that passages about Mary and her immaculation, that she was at the hand of God, she was a manifestation of God's will, that sort of thing. Just randomly. You'd be talking to it about highway structure, and it would bring up Mary. And so...
Which none of that's biblical anyway.
Well, I think you know who's going to be in command of it.
Yeah.
Because it's not like they started rattling off about the greatness of Muhammad.
No. Well, not only that, but let's just be clear here. What does it say here in verse 15? Talking about the false prophet, that he gave power, he had the power to give life unto the image of the beast, so that the beast should speak and cause many that not worship the image of the beast to be killed. So it's telling you that whatever this image of the beast is, who's going to be controlling it? The false prophet. The false Jesus is going to be the one in control of the image of the beast. And if I just told you who I believe the false prophet is, that's your end game right there. That's how this whole thing comes apart. Because you also have another reference here in Revelation 16, which I'll bring up here real quick. This is 12 through 14. Now, this is talking about the 7 bowl judgments. So by the time we get to the bowl judgments, things have gotten very, very bad on the earth. Like we're literally right at the tail end, right before Christ comes back. This is where, the sun starts burning people, darkness floods the entire world, all the waters in the world turns into blood, and people have to drink in order to live.
I do want to say, I don't know if you're aware of this because I talk about space sometimes, but solar flares. NASA is really ringing the bell about that, by the way, that it can do that. It can penetrate the atmosphere and cook you. So that's something they're also really talking about now. That's not movie theory anymore. That's NASA, the official government agency, reminding you that SPF 1 million still isn't enough.
Well, not only that, let's take it a step further. They're also warning you about, hey, there's this giant asteroid somewhere in space that could possibly hit the Earth somewhere in the next 7 years. And where do we find this?
No, it's not even that bad, okay? I don't know if you read that whole conversation I was having with Rob, okay? So let me round back around and bring the image up so it's more spooky, okay? Let me see if I can go find that spooky image of that thing that I showed you guys this morning in the room, because this is taking over the world rapidly, and you're not going to be able to go anywhere without hearing everybody's theory about Atlas, the great asteroid on its way to do something here on Earth, or alien ship, if you are one of the disclosure believers, if you will. Let me just zoom in here so we have a better, clear image. Share the screen. But so Atlas, you're going to hear a lot about this in the next few months because it's going to be a very fun topic around the water cooler. About 4 months ago, you remember Oumuamua? You guys remember that one? How that thing just sped through and people were like, oh my God, that was an alien probe. It turned around as it came around the sun, and it did some very unusual stuff that we had never seen a comet or asteroid ever do on film. We theorized that it could do that, but we actually witnessed it happen. Now, this time with Atlas is, when we sent Voyager out, we put Voyager on a very specific trajectory, if you believe in space. Let me just preface this. If you believe in space, we sent Voyager out on a very specific trajectory so that it would pass by all the planets close enough to take pictures. You remember those very oily, oceany looking pictures of Jupiter, whereas it didn't have these very defined lines. It was like sort of like oil and milk were mixed together. You know, they weren't doing very well cohabitating. It was a very beautiful picture. Now, I don't know if that's real. It's very pretty. I'll just tell you that. So what we're looking at here is Atlas is traveling at a trajectory to pass by every Earth-like planet. And when it's at its closest point to the Earth, it is on the opposite side of the sun. However, it comes back around because of this trajectory trickery. It comes back around and hits us again, not hits us, but like passes by within, it is just outside of where the moon is. So we'll see this pretty blatantly in the sky. But it's not going to hit anything. It's going to go by and it's going to be way out there. But, because the moon's not close. It's close enough to see, but it's not like reach out and touch me close. So,
not to mention, we apparently lost all the technology to go back to the moon after the 60s.
Exactly.
We just lost it.
We lost the technology. Whoops. History-altering technology. Thousands of years of wanting to walk on the moon. Whoops. Dropped it in the shredder. Anyway, I dumped coffee all over the one copy of the formula to get to the moon. Whoops. Anyway, so what happened is that Atlas is on a perfect trajectory to pass by us on December 23rd. Now, there are people like Harvard professor Avi Loeb, who has been connected to the government, who are going out and telling us that this is an alien craft and that Oumuamua was a scout That's why it was so thin. It was only just a few feet thin, by the way. I don't know how the hell that happens in space. Okay, I really don't. It doesn't make any sense that something that is like a little bit thicker than a pizza box, it didn't just snap in half because of its just speed, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, so this thing's whipped through here, took off, it's gone, it's out of the solar system before we ever knew about it. Now Atlas is coming through, and it's moving faster than Oumuamua. And we've never seen anything move like this. None of the comments that go by here even click that fast, okay? So the weird thing about this thing is, again, I'm saying a lot of weird things. So you got to remember what's being set up here through this trickle of information. Start a checklist in your mind about what I'm telling you, okay? Already it's moving faster than anything we've seen. It's taking a trajectory that's going to take it by a tour of all the Earth-like planets. That's Venus, that's Mars, that's Earth, okay? Comes by all of them. All right, now that's pretty weird. Most things don't do that. So anyway, and when we're not in our observable window, we could just kind of look up at the sky and take pictures. That thing's on the opposite side of the sun. Okay?
Yep.
It's doing whatever it wants. Okay? So to add to that now, it glows green. There's only two things that do that in that environment. That's copper, and that's magnesium when it meets oxygen in the superheated environment, superheated oxygen. What is oxygen doing on an asteroid, on a comet? That's weird. It's also shedding nickel. We don't see that because nickel is one of those, we don't see that. But it's shedding nickel faster than it's shedding iron. The other thing is that it's shedding carbon dioxide at a rate, carbon dioxide and water at a rate of 8 carbon dioxide units to 1 water unit. And usually it's different. It's completely flipped. So it's also shooting a water jet out the front of it, or what we think is a water jet out the front of it, with enough force that the solar particles that beat the heck out of our atmosphere, that we need the magnetosphere so we don't get cooked like Judgment Day on a regular day, that it's beating those and creating a forward tail. We've seen this before, but only once. And so this thing is, when you put all this together, they're trying to tell you this is an alien craft. Okay? It's not going to be like the movies where they come out and they're like, just so you know, aliens are real, they're on their way. They like McDonald's. They're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. You are going to get a very abrupt or alert on your phone that something is in the sky and they need you to stay calm. Because this thing is predicted to be 7 miles wide. That's the length of Manhattan wide. Okay? So if that thing is a Christmas Satan comet that's delivering alien ugaboos here, all right? These demonic, ugly things that are going to come here and they're going to do horrible things and commit horrible atrocities, blah, blah, blah. Guess what? They're trying to tell you that very secretively. Now, a lot of what's happened with this, okay, because every single satellite that we have around Mars was pointed to take pictures at this thing, then the government shuts down. Now, I'm not saying that they shut the government down to save pictures from Mars, right? I'm not telling you to do that. But the agencies, even in Europe, did not send their pictures. They're not tied to our budgetary constraints, or at least we're told they're not. Let's put it that way. So China hasn't put out their pictures of the object passing by. All we have is that mysterious cylinder that I had up there. That's all we have from the Perseverance rover's navigation camera. That's just a freaking Logitech webcam, dude.
Yeah.
That's all that is. Now, it's very curious, right, that we have all this incredibly defined instrumentality floating around Mars that was pointed to take all this information from, and not a drip of it's come out aside from a very blurry webcam picture. Right? Isn't that weird?
It's weird from this aspect too. And it's like, does it not seem like that they're just preparing for like every single thing that the Bible tells you is going to happen? It's like they're already preparing an excuse for you. And now maybe there's a reason for it here, because let's say this is from Revelation 8. And what happens here? This is during the trumpet judgments. The third trumpet sounded, and a great star fell from heaven like a burning torch, and it fell on a third of the rivers and the spring of the water. And the name of the star So this is a star that falls from heaven, is wormwood, and a third of the waters became wormwood. Many men died from the water because it was made bitter.
Yep.
So I wanted to point this out. And then on top of that, let's just back up here to this Revelation 16 here for a second. Now this is going back to the bowl judgments. When you're seeing here, the sixth angel, a vial was poured upon the great river Euphrates, and the water dried up, and made the way for the kings of the east might be prepared. I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs coming out of the mouth of the dragon, the mouth of the beast, and the mouth of the false prophet. That's Satan, the Antichrist, and the false prophet. It said they were the spirits of devils working miracles, in which go forth unto the kings of the earth and the whole world to gather them to battle for the great day of God Almighty. Well, what is happening here? This means that all of the people who have sided with Satan, they are going to be supernaturally. You're right over there.
All this, I'm allergic to Satan.
Yeah, right. It's basically saying that all the people who have sided with Satan at this point in time, everyone who took the mark of the beast and decided they're going to worship Satan as their god, they're all going to be supernaturally pulled to the river Euphrates, pulled to Jerusalem. They're going to be gathered in battle against Christ himself, only for Christ to come back and slaughter all of them in one fell swoop. Just in case you guys didn't realize, when the second coming happens, you're not getting hippie Jesus. I want you guys to really understand this. You're not getting hippie peace and love Jesus. You're getting fire and brimstone. He has a sword out of his mouth, and he's coming to slaughter you. And there's going to be so much blood on the battlefield, it will literally be up to your neck. That's the Jesus that you're getting in the second coming. I just want people to know that.
Presumably, the only people left on earth are the people that are beyond redemption. So...
Exactly. And when you, like I say, if you go back to the bowl judgments, at a certain point of the tribulation, it's only a third of the waters that turn into blood and a third that turns bitter. By the tail end of the tribulation, all of the water has turned into blood, all of it, because essentially only people who are left are these super, super evil, wicked people. And those people are going to have quite hell to pay here. But I want to hit up one more thing here before we wrap this up here. This is 2 Thessalonians. Now, again, this is kind of wrapping up a couple of points here. Something that we talked about last week, and me and Leslie talked about this earlier, about at what point does God give up on people? Like, at what point are you too far gone for redemption? Well, the Bible makes it clear, once you've been given the gospel of salvation, once you've been preached the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ for the forgiveness of your sins, that he took the penalty for you so you didn't have to pay it yourself. Once you've been received that gospel and you reject it, God turns you over to delusion. Specifically in the tribulation, if you have essentially rejected the gospel and you're in the tribulation, God's going to turn you over to the lie so that you will damn yourself. This is what's going to happen. What does it say here? 2 Thessalonians 2, 9 through 12 here. It says, for even him whose coming is after the working of Satan, of all powers and signs and lying wonders. This means that Satan is going to be doing a whole lot of deceiving and deception on the earth during this time period to keep people away from Christ. And it says here, verse 10, for all of the deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. For this, God shall send them a strong delusion, so that they should believe the lie, and that they all might be damned who believe not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. What is this saying here? Everyone who received the gospel, and instead of saying, I repent and believe in my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, you said, no, I don't believe this. I don't want Jesus. There's nothing that you can tell me that's ever going to get me to repent and turn to Christ. For those people, they are turned over to Satan. Satan is going to make them do whatever they want to do. He's going to make them believe whatever they want to believe. And at the end of the day, that's going to end with them taking the mark of the beast, worshiping the image of the beast, and ultimately going to war against Christ himself, where they will be slaughtered. And this is going to happen not because that, God is mean and he wants you to perish. No, he tried to save you. You said, no, I don't want to be saved. I don't want to be with you in heaven for an eternity. So God turned you over to be deceived by the lie. And that's ultimately what's going to lead to your own destruction. And during the time period of the tribulation, everyone who rejects the truth will be turned over to that lie. So there will come a point in time where he's giving you a grace period now, but that grace period is rapidly ending. And for those people, again, everything that we're talking about here, AI, aliens, wormwood, all this stuff, everything, like, look, literally, all the waters of the world are going to turn into blood, and there's no scientific explanation for why that would happen outside of God, and people are still going to be convinced that at that time period, oh, it's climate change. We told you this is going to happen with climate change, now it's happening. That's going to be the explanation to why you're forced to drink blood for the next 3 months of your life, because you rejected God. Why demons have literally been coming out of the pits of hell to torture you for several months on end. There's always going to be an excuse. Exactly, climate change. And like I said, because you rejected the truth, you're going to be given over to the strong delusion of the lie so that you can believe it and that you will be damned. And I think we're rapidly coming up on that point here. And I'll kind of leave it here with this. Where do we go here with AI? Like I said, we're talking about all the things that we can potentially do with AI. And is there the potential for a lot of good with AI? Absolutely there is. But what we often see is that even if something has good intentions in its inception, Satan is always going to find a way to manipulate it for bad. And that's just the way that it is. As long as he's around to deceive the entire world into doing evil things, that's just the way that it's going to be. Until he is actually bound in the abyss for 1,000 years, we're essentially under the rule, quite literally, of demonic deception. And that's what's happening in the world right now. So where does this end? We can have a conversation about whether the role of AI is going to be the image of the beast. There's a solid conversation to be had there. Or the AI is going to be used for lying wonders and deception. There's a conversation to be had there. All I can say with everything that's going on here is that they're clearly preparing for something that's going to happen in the very near future. And I don't think that with the people who are in charge of all of these elements here, that their attentions have anything in the realm of good. And that's just my honest opinion about where things are going here. So like I said, whether it's the 2027 plan or, like I said, everyone in the world seems to be gathering and preparing for something that's going to happen in 2030. And I have a inkling of what that could be. But yeah, if that's the case here, I would say now will probably be the time to get right with Christ, because I don't think you have a whole lot of time left, because even if this doesn't happen in the course of the next couple of years, things are arguably going to get very bad. And like I said, we're far too late to put the genie back in the bottle at this point. So you kind of either have to accept it, or you can just deny it, and then good luck with your lying wonders and deception. But I would say that now is probably the time to get right. And I'll let you go with your final thoughts on this topic of AI and all the crazy things that AI is bringing to our world very rapidly right now.
I work with it every day. I manifest all my crazy ideas through it. What I try to do with it is I try to arc toward the righteous cause. I try to arc toward reminding people. What I struggle with is I don't like using heavy-handed, like, we're going to put a big old text box here that's a raw scripture and Jesus giving you a thumbs up. We're not going to do that. So I try to nestle this stuff into what I'm working on. Now, Jacob noticed that I was working on putting together a Power Rangers adventure in the Hollow Earth. That's because I am fascinated by people who ran away from the flood. And in that story, I tell the story that they saw the flood as a punishment for reaching too far into the divine, much like the Tower of Babel. Mm-hmm. And so I listed all the mythical cities that existed here when the cataclysm that was caused by a Power Ranger battle on the moon, and they saw that as like a cosmic divine intervention that prevented them from entering into a life of apathetic wandering. Gee, doesn't that sound familiar with the Bonnie Bang Bus running around, huh? Bonnie Blue Bang Bus running around, right? Apathetic wandering. And so that's what I'm trying to do, is I'm trying to remind people that these stories aren't like locked in the fabled Bible, that they exist in every story that we tell. Yeah. It is the DNA of the Bible is in everything, even before us. The story of Zeus, the story of that. It's all the story of the corruption before God put an end to it. That's all it is. That's all the stuff. The
Ragnarok. All of these, like I said, all of these, like Norse mythology, Greek mythology, Roman mythology, like all of these are stories. And I did a whole episode about this too, but it's literally telling you what the people on the earth believed about the Nephilim before the flood. That's where all of these stories come from. Yeah. Like when you look at even mythologies from like the origin of vampires and werewolves and all this stuff, these were all things that were going on in the world before God flooded everything.
Right.
And that in of itself should tell you. It's exactly like that in of itself should tell you, wow, why does all of these cultures that, keep in mind, at that time period would have had no way of communicating with each other and cross-referencing notes or anything like that. It's not like India had a direct pathway to Rome back in 1300 BC or anything like that, right? It's not like they had...
Well, yeah, you're right, because every single culture on Earth, ancient or otherwise, we're still uncovering Aztec stuff, and they talk about a flood. They talk about terrible giants. They talk about wicked magic. They talk about blood drinkers. They talk about skinwalkers. They talk about shapeshifters. All of that, just the same as the Europeans do. And I defy you to tell me that the ancient Aztecs, before having contacted the Spaniards, were recording European mythology on their temples.
Yeah. They were getting them on the phone and be like, hey, what was you guys talking about the Great Flood? What about all these pyramids? Can we take some of your notes? Because we want to build some pyramids over here too. And next thing you know, pyramids just ended up all over the world.
Every pyramid predating the flood is on the ley lines of the Earth. Those are the magnetic ley lines of the Earth. They are perfectly aligned with it within a foot or two. And so that, again, like these ancient cultures had advanced to a point where the Bible, like I'm one of the guys that believes most of what the Apocrypha writings talk about, because they talk about spaceships. I believe that we had a hyper advanced society and God was like, you know what? You lost the plot. You lost the plot. And I don't know how to bring you back. So
and it's not even just
zero.
And it's not even just like hyper advanced society, but I think what was happening is like I said, pre-flood, what do we see happening here? You saw fallen angels intermingling with humanity, quite literally having children with humanity and causing abominations with humanity. And so what else was those fallen angels teaching them here, right?
The antediluvian times.
Exactly. I even did a story about this. I think we were talking about the Gnosticism in the Matrix a while back ago. And the Gnostics believed that in the time of Sodom and Gomorrah, that they were actually obtaining sentience and the great knowledge in Sodom and Gomorrah. This is how they explain, Sodom and Gomorrah's destruction. Well, they even say it in their own admission. It was like, yeah, human beings were being guided by these ancient beings. It's like, oh, wow, I wonder who those ancient beings were. Could they not have been the third of the angels who rebelled against God? Could they have not have been Satan himself, right? And like I said, you just see these themes over and over again, and people just assume that, oh, that's Old Testament story, that's fairy tales, that's fables. It's like, are you to believe that with all of this evidence that we present, keep in mind, outside of Christian sources, like all of these nations that we're talking about do not have a Christian foundation in them whatsoever. They're a pagan or Hindu or other, like I said, Aztecian, whatever the case may be. They all tell you the same story that just so happens the Bible was the first one to tell you. So if all of these things happen throughout the world, is it completely out of the realm of possibility that they're still happening today? Like I said, the time of the flood, we had man intermingling with fallen angels and demons and Nephilim. Are we to believe that that doesn't still happen in high positions of power to this very day? Why is it that all these nations and organizations are planning for something big to happen in 2030? You think that's by coincidence that all of these things are converging with each other at the same time?
And then there's that lady that's going around saying that they spent $11 trillion building a network of underground cities around the world.
Yep. And they say that they've been doing that for like 30 years. And it's like, why is everyone trying to build underground cities and tunnels right now? Like, what are they preparing for? Do they think? Go ahead.
Well, and that's why the Hollow Earth that I have is full of danger and death and plenty of opportunities where other creatures have met their death. So it's not a haven. It's a place that these people ran to from punishment, but they learned their lesson and stayed there. So that's the thing, is that I'm using this stuff. This is how you tell these stories without being so heavy-handed like that stupid Russell Crowe one with the rock people. That, I don't care if they're fallen angels. It was a stupid idea. I don't care. It's dumb. Don't do that.
Yeah.
But anyway, the situation you find yourself in as you go through telling these stories, though, is that you need to not tread into doing God's job for it. And that's why I don't preach through it. I don't use these as a way to bring people to God. I just try to remind them that there's a holiness in what we do. In every story we tell, that's the good story anyway, where the hero wins, there's a holiness to it. Even the story of Hercules, as horrible as his life was, he finally turned it around. He killed his family, and then he went through his trials and turned it around. That's a Christian story at its core. It goes with some pretty Greek directions, pretty Greek mythology directions, but it's a Christian story of redemption at its core.
I will say this, and this is something that I've thought about, and I've done a couple of stories in this, and my stories aren't, like I said, like people expect to be, like, let's say, the Left Behind, Kirk Cameron, preachy, God is here and it's time to repent type stories. Like, you don't necessarily have to do that, but this is something that Hollywood has been brilliant at over the last several decades, which kind of explains why they're in the position that they are. They love telling stories in a world that God is completely absent in, where biblical truth is completely absent in. There's a movie out there called The Life of Chuck, which I reviewed on the site too, and it's talking about the death and the life of a man who died of brain cancer at 39 years old. Now, of course, in the Hollywood world, when you die, it's like, oh, you had a good run and now off to the nether realm you go, or oh, nothing's gonna happen to you because that's all a bunch of hocus pocus. Lights out, credits roll, right? That's how they frame it here. But in stories that I like to do, stories that I like to tell, it's like you can tell biblical stories in a modern setting. It's like, let's be honest here. There's a lot of horrific stuff that happens in the world. When you tell a biblical story, it doesn't have to be all gumdrops and ice cream. Because let's be honest, even when you read the Bible, specifically the Old Testament, it was not all gumdrops and ice cream in the Bible too. There was a lot of horrific stuff out there, and the Bible went into great detail to tell you about these things that happen. So you don't have to essentially be, I guess you could say, gumdrops and ice cream in that retrospect, but you like, this is the world that we live in because it is a fallen world, and this is what happens to the level of depravity that man will go when they reject God, and go from there. So you can tell stories about, other cultures that reference, like I said, the flood or the Tower of Babel or Sodom and Gomorrah, or the spiritual world, that the war that happens every day between demons and fallen angels and Satan and the elect and the unrighteous and all this stuff. Like, you can tell a story, like, honestly, put an example, you can frame Digimon in the story of the biblical worldview. That doesn't mean you have to remove the elements of what makes Digimon great, but you can also tell it in the world of like, well, hey, look, this is the world, the digital world. What is really going on in the digital world? Who truly controls it? Like, there's a lot of inconsistencies in the story. Who is Yggdrasil? Where did Yggdrasil come from? What is the North meaning of Yggdrasil? Is this a demon? Is this a fall? You can explore a whole bunch of elements here that isn't all about, fire and brimstone, it's time to repent. Like, there's so much, I guess the best way you can say this is that there's so much depth and so much meat in just the Bible alone that you can interlude that just in so many stories. That's what guys like, let's be honest here, J.R. Tolkien did, and many other great writers did, is that they used the Bible as the framework to tell great acts of, fiction and fantasy and stuff like that, and kept it grounded in the biblical worldview. It didn't have to, I guess, sacrifice those elements for the sake of telling a great story. But because we live in a world that doesn't, let's say, influence people to do that, because we influence people to tell a story that has nothing to do with Christ. So everyone lives in this fantasy world where you live, you die, there's no consequences, don't worry about that, life means nothing. And now everything you watch in TVs and movies is just pure nihilism, no hope, all depression. And it's like, people get tired of that very, very quickly here too. It's like, so you're just telling me that there's nothing to live for? And I would hate to be in that position, in all honesty. Like, I would hate to have that mindset of just, you live, you die, and nothing matters. And then you wonder why so many people out there are miserable, because, like, wow, this is the framework of the stories that we're telling people now? No wonder everyone's on SSRIs. It's like, this is why.
And what I want to stress is there's an ethical way to do this. It's like Bayon Rad said, you can use it for good stuff, you can use it for bad. Resurrecting these dead celebrities to make them dance around, steal chicken, sing your praises or whatever. This is evil. That's very plainly evil. That's why when I'm doing this stuff, when I recreate shows and things like that, when I'm doing this Power Rangers stuff, I don't use any of the actors. Not because they're dead or alive, but because I just simply don't believe it's right to take agency over someone's life like that. I'll use their character names, certainly, because those are fictional. That's perfectly fine. I'm not going to bring Jason David Frank back to tell every world that my Power Ranger thing's the greatest thing he's ever been in. I'm not going to do that. That's evil. Okay?
Yeah, we're not David Yost.
This is why I don't generate pictures of Jesus Christ with AI. He's not dead, right? In our sense, he's not dead, but
it also might be a second commandment violation too.
Right. well, not only that, but where it comes down for the ethical violation, when you want to just, take the atheist route on it. Because what I did is I wanted to try and be able to explain this to anybody when I was coming up with this reasons to not generate dead people. Is the reason why you don't generate Christ is that Christ is a divine figure. Same reason why you don't generate Buddha, same reason why you don't generate Muhammad, for however you feel about Muhammad. You could draw Muhammad if you like, don't generate it. That's evil. And it's just one of those things where you paint a picture of Jesus with your own hand. That is the intended way that Jesus is supposed to be communicated to the world, through the hand of the Son of God. The manifestation. You are the child of God. You're supposed to have your own hands. The machine doing it is not a soulful act. And that's why it violates my ethics and values. So I don't do it. That's why I don't bring back the dead. It violates my ethics. It's not a healthy and smart thing to do, because we already don't do that. Impressionists add their own twist. Every impressionist you'll ever meet has their own way of doing Elvis, their own way of doing MJ, their own way of doing the Grinch. They are not the same. The AI makes everything the same because it's replicating that person as it was entered into the data pool. All right? And that's what I want to stress, is there's an ethical way to do all of this. But what you need to do is bear in mind that the machine does not have that ethic and is being programmed to not have that ethic. All right? So you need to apply it yourself. Resist the temptation. Resist the temptation to fix the old Star Wars scenes. Resist the temptation to go, because again, a lot of those people are dead. Like even Tarkin,
and not only just like the dead people, Carrie Fisher, but not even just the dead people. It's like, also don't try to do it for like the living too, because I mean, let's be honest here. With AI and the technology that you have here, you can get people who are still alive to say some pretty depraved things in the mind of a pretty depraved person here too. And kind of to summarize your point, it's like, look, we live in the world where everything can be used for either good or evil. A lot of people sadly use it for evil. So if you want to know how to navigate this situation, and I'm saying that all AI is evil and all AI is going to be a downfall, there are people out there who are using AI for good. Be the person who uses this for good and productive good at that. Because like I said, we can't stop the productive evil, because like I said, a lot of these things have to come to pass, but you can at least be the person that be like, instead of giving into the evil or producing more of the evil, I'm going to be essentially the light of good or the agent of good in this whole situation. And that's all you can really do in the grand scheme of things, right? Because like I said, it's not like we have that much control over how the world is going to play out in the grand scheme of things. We can only control what we do at this point. So it's like the choice there is ours. So we see a lot of these things happening. Like we can look at videos of Michael Jackson stealing chicken, or Biggie and Tupac doing pro wrestling promos and stuff like that. If you just look at it from a simply entertainment perspective, hey, that's you. But ultimately, we know that there's something leading up to this. And all I can say is that don't be a part of the downfall of what this is going to produce. Try, while we have the opportunity, while we have the time, be an agent of good, not an agent of Satan. That's probably the best way I can summarize it here for this episode. So that's kind of it here. This is actually a good conversation because we would hit up a lot of topics here. All I can say is that with the escalation of AI, it's only going to grow even further. These videos that we're seeing now, these videos might even look fake based on the videos that we get 6 months from now. Like, this is how fast things are rapidly approaching here. So we're looking at these videos and be like, oh, I can still tell that this is fake. 6 months from now, that might not be the case. 6 months from now, all those little details that you can look at and be like, I don't know about this. This is how fast things are going here. So keep a watchful eye on this stuff because it's only going to progress here. And then the topics of this specific conversation, we're going to carry this one over for Tuesday's Barroom. Instead of talking about the more biblical aspect of this, I want to talk about kind of the copyright aspect of this too, because another big story with AI over the weekend is that people started generating their own episodes of like South Park and Family Guy and Simpsons and their other stuff, where basically it looks like a legitimate episode of South Park and Family Guy and The Simpsons, to the point where it looks even better than what you're currently getting. Like, there was a 3-minute video of someone who did a completely AI generated episode of South Park where the plot looks like something that Matt and Trey would have actually done in real life. And like, it looks like a legitimately real South Park episode. And at a time period where they're dedicating the real episodes to just Trump is bad, Trump has a small penis, and he's sleeping with Satan, people are like, well, hell, if we can just start doing our own episodes of South Park, what do we need Matt and Trey for? And if Paramount gets to the point where it's like, well, hey, these people on Twitter are creating better episodes than the people that we're paying $300 million a year to, what is that going to lead to? So there's some very, very interesting questions with this. As everyone knows, the Hollywood situation where everyone's complaining about this AI actress. Look, a lot of people need to be worried about their jobs over the next couple of years. And it ain't just, the grocery baggers and the people working at Wendy's. Hollywood quite literally may have created a monster that they can no longer contain. It's going to be all their fault. But we'll talk about that in more detail on Tuesday's episode of The Barroom. Till then, Cider, where can we find more of you when you're not playing Card Simulator for 5 hours?
Yeah, that happened.
Yeah, that was a thing.
I didn't realize it had been 5 hours, and then my body was like, hey, it's been 5 hours. You're going to die.
Here's a story that happened. I left, went to a store that was about an hour away from where I live, came back, you were still playing. It's like, I can still hear your voice on the computer. It's like, oh, he's still going. That's
that massaged my very particular card game store management autism, apparently. I don't know. That was really weird. But over on Bounding, I'm talking about Power Rangers all the time, and apparently it's working. Almost 100 people have subscribed from their most recent Power Ranger video I posted. I don't know what the hell's going on with that, but we're going to find out. So
that's great because
the people more of that.
Because the people on X don't like your Power Ranger stuff at all. So you're getting a
300,000 people saw that post, and only 41 people liked it. So
yeah, because the YouTube people and the X people are probably beefing with each other right now. That's all I have to say.
Over my Power Ranger video on TikTok, and nobody knows what's going on.
Yeah, so that's fun. But yeah, guys, letting you guys know, next week, probably going to talk a little bit about this false union that you see growing in the Christian community right now, especially in the wake of Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk's assassination was horrific. I'm glad that people did come together to spread the gospel to people who desperately needed to hear it. But there is something that we need to warn about. And like I said, a lot of these things came from Rome. When you look at the Protestant Reformation, the Orthodox Church, all these other little denominations people argue over, all these things are sprouts from Rome. It seems like Rome is calling all of her daughters back to the mother. And we're going to talk about how this is a major deception you guys need to stay away from, because all roads lead back to Rome in the end times, and none of them are good. So that's going to be next week's episode of The Bible Ends. Tuesday, we'll talk more about the Sora AI and a couple of other topics on that show as well. So until then, I want to thank all you guys for joining us for tonight's episode. Leslie Tarkin, Vanya joining us here, Kenny Powers, Bayona Rad, Rooftop Korean, everyone here joined us for tonight's episode. Thank you very much. We will see you guys on Tuesday night. Adios, goodbye, and good night.
Once I turned to Jesus and I realized how he had changed my outlook on life, not just softball, but understanding how much I have to live for, and that's living to exemplify the kingdom. And I think that brings so much freedom.
David, I know share a strong faith. How does that help you on a night like tonight?
It's everything. Christ's resurrection is everything. Not just his life, but his death and resurrection. You can only get that through him, the Holy Spirit only through him. No false prophets, no Muhammad, no anyone else. Only Jesus Christ himself.
Let me tell you one more thing. This might be the most important thing you'll ever hear. There is true freedom, a freedom that no one can take from you in the name of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. Don't ever forget that. If you remember one thing I say, remember that.
And I've got lots to tell you. Believe in the Lord Jesus Christ and you will be saved.
Is that your reaction to what people who want you off this party shortly?
Believe in the Lord Jesus Christ and you'll be saved.
And what about you being stripped of your belt? I mean, that's you must be very unhappy with that. What's your reaction to that?
Jesus loves me. He loves you too, and he loves you too. He loves these people in here, and he loves everybody in the world. All you've got to do is repent of your sins, and you will be forgiven.